Hi, so this is a guitarless video about guitars. And the question that I want to answer, and I'm going to try to be truthful here, is how many guitars do I actually own? Okay. And I have to answer it, I guess, in a lawyerly or a funky way, let's put it that way. So at any given time, I probably have, I'd say, about 9 to 11 guitars at once. Some of them I've had for a while. Obviously, there's been times where I've had a lot more guitars. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is that I want to talk about something I call musical intimacy. So one of the things, or guitars, we'd call it GAS, guitar acquisition syndrome. I clearly suffer from this. I just absolutely love guitars. Guitars to me, they're stunning. So they're works of art. Obviously, I love to play them. So from a musical perspective, like that. So, and they're like, if you like history, which I happen to be a history buff, I love looking at classical guitars and things just way back, history of jazz, like things about Charlie Christians. And if you're a true nerd about like acoustic instruments or things about pickups, things of that nature, so I love them, period. So in a perfect world, um, my life in heaven would be I owned a guitar museum that I woke up and there was, boom, the acoustic section. There was the archtop section. So now let's get back to this whole notion about musical intimacy or about what I call guitar acquisition syndrome. So there's this whole notion that we're always looking for the perfect guitar, the guitar that's going to make us play as best as possible. And I think because of the relative, I call it nice price points of guitars. When I was growing up and learning to play guitar, Yamaha was a high end guitar for me. And so if you had $500 and you can get a really nice Yamaha, that's it. You can go to Guitar Center right now, walk in with about $800 to $1,000 and walk out with 2 to 3 guitars, get those things properly set up, and you got yourself a dream if it's acoustic guitar. You can buy an amp, a good Strat, or obviously a good Tele, and you're good to go. So I think what ends up happening with guitar players is that we are constantly on the lookout for the next best guitar. And sometimes that actually detracts us from learning to play the instrument as well as we probably should. I'm learning this by trying to learn the cello. So clearly, because of the price point, an inexpensive student cello is about $3,000 to $5,000. That's basically, um, you know, price point of a bourgeois or a custom shop Fender or a good arch drop or even an Eastman guitar and stuff like that in the high end. But you're talking a student cello that's like $3,000 to $5,000. So because of that, if you go to a cellist house or somebody learning it, if you came to my house, you don't see 5 or 6 or 11 cellos. You see one cello. And as a result of that, what ends up happening is you practice on that instrument, you get to know the sweet spot of that instrument, and you think of ways to make it better. So I've read things about the strings, the different bows, all sorts of things. But my whole idea about as progressing through the instrument is really to utilize what I have and to improve the sound of it. But on the practice routine, I don't think about, okay, which cello am I going to use today? Am I going to use the one that's laminate? Am I going to use the all wood one? Am I going to use, there's no issues whatsoever about that. I only have one cello, so I picked that out. And I sort of like, I look at like a lot of guitarists, like Willie Nelson uses Tigger. You look at a lot of guitarists that kind of use one or two guitars. That's the way, I almost think that's the perfect way to be at. So it's not that you don't suffer from guitar acquisition syndrome. I think if you were to go to guys' house, like somebody like George Benson, I suppose he has a lot of arch tops, but there's like 2 or 3 arch tops that this guy really plays a lot. Everybody gets like that. So um, to answer the question, I go through about like 9 or 11 guitars. And I mean, at times I've had a lot more, even at one time. I mean, at one time I think I had 6 Eastman guitars. So, I mean, and I'm happy with what I have right now, but I'm always on the constant lookout for something that's going to help me play a little bit better. So, the next question I'd like to answer, or at least kind of address, is more like if you were given the choice of 1 or 2 guitars, what would you keep in your stable? It's almost like somebody puts a gun in your head. And a lot of you guys have multiple guitars. If they put a gun to your head and said, "Hey, which you can only have one or two of these things, what are you gonna have?" I would definitely say I will always have a Telecaster, because to me that is the ultimate, almost like perfect instrument. And I mean, I've played. You guys watch this channel. I've played so many, guitars. It's not even funny that I've had in my hands. I mean, beautiful arch tops, great acoustic classical guitars, you name it and stuff. The reason I like Telecasters is that they're sort of like a simple instrument that defy what I call the different styles that you can play with it. They're not. If you have an arch top and it's all solid, right now I live in Massachusetts, and the temperatures are changing and the humidity, you've got to keep it humidified. Same thing with classical and acoustic guitars. There's all sorts of stuff. In order to get a really good sound of this stuff, you got to make sure that the wood is properly kept. Telecasters are like, it doesn't matter. Okay, the guitar, I never put my Teles out. I mean, I never put them in a case. They're always it's just like this block of wood. You cut the thing in there, you throw the pickup in there and stuff, and if it's done right and wired right and the neck feels good, you can play anything. You can twang it out, you can play jazz with it, you can play pure rock in it, you can funk it up. Yeah, I'll even play classical and that stuff with that. And there's no instrument that I know of that's as versatile as a Tele. You know, and so I would always have to have a Tele. The funny thing about the Telecaster is, like, I never played a Telecaster until maybe about 5-6 years ago. Before that, I never played a Tele. I always thought a Tele was something that, I grew up watching Hee Haw and things like that. I thought it was just a country twangy instrument. I didn't know people like Ed Bickert. I just didn't know, like, Tim Lurch or somebody like myself, that I played, jazz off this stuff. I didn't know you can get that versatility of tone, and I've seen a lot of rockers play with that. So anyway, sorry for the long message. The guitar, video without a guitar. How many do you have? What would you keep? And why? All right then. Thanks for watching.